Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. They're very odd creatures. They should put them in a museum.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
You care less about what people think about you when what you get back tends to be very positive in terms of what people think about you.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
You have crossed the social norm boundary there.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
Because it's so important to our survival.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy, and today we're going to talk about stopping caring what other people think.
Yes, please. This is one of those, my sister has a phrase, like whenever people say something about themselves, believe the opposite. And I think this is true. That,
yes.
I like to think of myself as a person who doesn't care what other people think. But then someone writes something mean about the size of my forehead on Facebook and it hurts my feelings. So yes, I mean, I definitely care what people think. I definitely consider myself someone who doesn't care what people think while caring quite a bit about what people think.
Yeah, what caring what people think. Well, it's human nature. We're going to talk about like why we're hardwired to do this. And then when it becomes a problem, and then perhaps some solutions. How does that sound?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this. I've thought so much about it. It has, at some times of my life, I feel like been the true bane of my existence. Like caring what people think has at times been the definitive thing that shaped my personality. And I think I've gotten better about it. So I think I do have some insights to offer.
So Roman Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, you know him well.
Oh, Marcus Aurelius. He's someone that I've learned about on flashcards with my 7th grader for sure.
Yes. Well, he's 2,000 years ago, guys. He said, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. So apparently it's been happening for a while. And I will say I'm glad that it's a male Roman Stoic philosopher saying we all do this, because I feel like this is yet another thing that's, I think, put on women more than men. Like, just stop caring what other people think so much, as if that's something that men don't do. And here's Marcus Aurelius like, yeah, we all do that.
Let me go theoretical first, Amy, and tell me, maybe you have research to back it up, or it's just an agree or disagree. I feel strongly that this is something that gets better with age.
Well, I have an extremely dubious study that I can quote you in response to this, proving that you're right.
Oh, I love a dubious study.
A study of 2,000 British people by Hodder.com, which is
Hodder.com?
Yeah, Hodder.
Like H-O-T-T-E-R.
Yes, it's a like...
Okay, so not a scholarly think tank that we usually go to for our
That's right.
insights.
Right.
Hodder.com.
Top think tank British slutty shoe brand Hodder.com surveyed 2,000 British people. And they asked them, was there an age where you stopped caring what other people thought? And in that study, people reported it being an average of 46 years old when they stopped caring what people thought.
Yeah, that tracks for me. I was just spending time with my 2 sisters-in-law, who, beyond being 2 of my favorite people on the planet, happen to be 2 of the most physically attractive human beings I've ever known in my life. They're just like uniquely stunning human specimens. And shockingly are also two of the nicest people I've ever met. So like, it's an odd thing. Like they happen to be, they're like super creatures. They look like supermodels and you would want to hate them, but they have like absolute hearts of gold and you love them. They're very odd creatures. They should put them in a museum. But I met them when they were, teenagers, which is crazy to think now. And life does go by. And now they're both in their 30s and have kids and are still, stunningly gorgeous, but are starting to hit an age where like physical beauty is a little bit maybe on the downslide,
And you like these people, you said.
Right. Like these are people who are used to just getting up in the morning. I will tell a very brief side story about them, which is that they came to visit me in LA and they are from smaller towns in Texas, not cities. They're country mice. And I had a 6-week-old baby, my first baby. They came to visit the baby. And I was very concerned because I wanted them to go out. We had a subway system in LA and I wanted them to go out and see the city, but I didn't want to take the baby. And we only had one car. So I was like, you're going to have to go out by yourself. So I had left them at Hollywood and Highland, which is a very busy intersection in LA. It's where the Oscars and the Walk of Fame. It's a famous place, but it's a little sketchy and seedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can take the subway. It's only 2 stops. I drew them like 400 maps. I was so worried about them.
Yes.
And then like 3 hours later, they come home and I'd been so worried and they were okay. And they're like, oh no, we must have looked so pathetic because this police officer came over and bought us our tickets and got us onto the subway car train and rode with us the 2 stops back and then walked us to your front door. Isn't that nice? And I was like, yeah, but that does not happen to everybody.
No.
Like, that is something that only happens to like the hyper attractive, that the police is like, let me pause my day and get these 2 extremely good looking girls back home and chat them up the whole way. And anyway, we were sitting, we were just, we're on vacation and we were sitting by the lake having the long philosophical conversations. And they were saying, basically that it's an evolution to kind of start to feel like that your looks are not the first thing that people respond to about you. Mm-hmm. And I think they're in their 30s now and saying really like, oh, I am just starting to untangle myself from like being a person who cares a lot what people think. But I think their process is starting because this thing that has been very central to their lives, which is being like kind of extraordinarily good looking. It's like you see that starting, that ship is starting to go to sea. And I think whether or not you start from the peak or, some midline or even a valley, it's like, getting older really forces you to reckon with this thing of, I am no longer a person who like, I can clearly remember the first time I was on a plane and like struggling with a bag and nobody came over to help me. Like when I was a young blonde woman in my 20s and 30s, whenever I was struggling with a bag, someone came to help me with, let me give you a hand with that. And it's like, I have somehow lost the beacon that is like hot girl in distress. And now I'm like invisible mom in distress. And everyone's like, too bad for you, old deluxe.
So what you're saying is you care less about what people think about you when what you get back tends to be very positive in terms of what people think about you. You start to worry about what people think of you when you're getting either indifference or worse.
Here's what I'm saying, which is even crazier than that. You care the most what people think about you when people think well of you. Like when you're at your peak of attractiveness, you care the most what people think about you because it's like kind of an unsteady like peak that you're standing on, I think. Right. And that as it starts to go away, you are forced to let go of caring what people think of you.
Yes.
So it's not that you care more when you get less. You weirdly care the most when there's the most at stake, when you're the most young and attractive.
But when you also have the most positivity around it.
And it takes losing it to be like unsettled by it and then come out the other side of like, all right, I guess I don't care. I guess I can choose to ignore this or like build something around it. You have to go through that valley first, maybe.
I think that what I have learned as an oldie locks is that is very much a yin yang kind of situation. The more interest you have in what people think about you, the more you care about it. So that when you're young and like And to be fair, when you're young, you spend a lot of time trying to get jobs, like trying to be pleasing to other people, trying to date. Like you are constantly in the game of like what people think about you is actually extremely important when you're
and curating
25,
what people think about
you're
you.
Like,
that's right.
Yeah, you're kind of trying to attract a mate. You're trying to get a job. You're trying to make it in your chosen field. Like what people think about you defines your whole life in your 20s. And luckily, you're kind of at your peak of power, whether it's like physical looks, whatever it happens to be. And then you get more settled. And I think that wave kind of, what is it called? The wave goes out a little bit on it. And it's like the positivity is no longer available to you. But the upside is that the judgment is not as meaningful to you either. Does that make sense?
It does. And then there's another thing for women in particular, which is parenting. Like, I feel like that's the other thing. Like we're judged on our appearance as women and we're judged on our performance as parents. Male parents too, but mothers are acutely aware of being judged as how we parent. And I think not incorrectly about that. It's not your imagination that people are judging your choices when you're giving your kid an iPad at the restaurant or not giving your kid an iPad at the restaurant and they're crying and making noise, right? Or giving your kid a pouch or not giving your kid a pouch. And we have an episode called Parenting with an Audience. I'll link to that in the show notes because the whole episode is specifically about this. Like when you let what the lady sitting across from you on the airplane is thinking of your parenting, adjust how you parent. You know, when is that okay? Sometimes it's called for, and when is it a problem? But it's another thing about what people think of you and wondering what they think and caring what they think. I feel like parenting is a total thunderdome.
Well, you just stepped on a tripwire that I think is super interesting, which is that sometimes this is appropriate. Like we always think of external judgment as like, how dare they? But we are a society and this is how we function in a society. And so that if you have a screaming, crying baby and there is a room in which you are in a like quiet restaurant in which every single person is bristling, like it might be appropriate to take the baby
Pick up
outside.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, like picking up on social cues is quite, I have, tweens and teens are doing a lot of work on picking up on social cues. And, I have a kid on the spectrum. It's a little harder to pick up on social cues. It's something we work on a lot at our house. Like, have you talked for 25 minutes about, the Marvel movie you saw? Like, do you read other people's faces that they're getting bored with this topic? Like, it is important. Like, we are social animals and those social cues can be important. And I think sometimes we want to attack it from the point of view of like, well, how dare anyone on the plane judge my screaming 2-year-old? And it's like, well, they do dare. Like we're all trapped in a tin can together. If your 2-year-old has an earache and is having a horrible day, I guess we all have to suck it up.
Give it a shot. Right.
Yeah.
Try to do something.
If your 2-year-old is running up and down the aisle and like coughing on strangers and just slamming the back of the person's seat, there was a video that went viral of a 2-year-old picture on a plane. The tray table's down. The 2-year-old is standing on the tray table, basically with like the hair of the person in front of them, like in their hands and like jumping up and down like the tray table is a trampoline.
Yeah.
And the parents are just like reading books on either side. And it's like, okay, that actually is, you have crossed the social norm boundary there. And we should all be shooting you dirty looks because you are outside of the social norms. But then I think what's interesting about like caring what people think is where are those judgments appropriate and adjusting? Like, okay, you've talked about Marvel for so long that everyone in the room is bored. You should stop talking about Marvel. That's an important adjustment to know how to make. But like you no longer have the body of like a prepubescent girl and therefore you are ugly to people. That's not useful. And so we should not care what people think.
Can I tell my own airplane shame story? That the same thing.
Please.
Because I'm sure people have seen this. I forget who it was. It was a professional athlete, I believe a basketball player, might have been a baseball player, tried to shame the airline by putting up a picture of his, the 3-seater picture, like, across the aisle, like ABC. It looked like a hurricane hit it. There was all kinds of Cheerios and stuff like mashed up on the carpet below the seats. And he took this picture and he put it on the internet and said like, at American Airlines or whatever airlines it was. Like, how dare you tell my wife that she has to pick that up? Like she is a mother traveling and this is how you treat your customers? And of course, like, they came for him in the comments. He was completely ratio, with people being like, dude, whose job do you think that is? Is it the flight attendant who's trying to deal with like people fighting over COVID? Like, no, like, clean up after your kids. And then on top of that, like, maybe you could, why is it your wife's job to clean up the Cheerios on the floor? You're clearly sitting there across the aisle. Maybe you could pick up the Cheerios.
Perhaps this is your job.
Yes. So sometimes feedback is appropriate.
I was just speaking to a guest on the What Fresh Hell podcast who had a really good insight on this that I'm going to share when we come back from this break.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. So on the very next episode, I am talking to Raina Boston on our Fresh Take about mom scams. And we talked a lot about like this kind of idea of like, how do we scam moms into feeling like they should feel guilty if they're away from their kids, or they should feel bad about, you know, working, or all these different kind of ideas of that people kind of hang on moms, on society. And she said that she likes to think about who is profiting from this idea. Who is profiting from the idea that moms should always be home taking care of the kids while their husband works? Mm-hmm. And that if they try to, you know, get off of that by going out, she was talking about, you know, a CEO of a company, female CEO, and they're always asked like, well, where are your kids? Isn't it hard to be away from your kids? And that males are never asked that question. Like, who profits from the idea that women should be extremely thin. Women should always stay young looking. Women should always be at home with their kids. And then like who benefits instead of profits, but like it's the same basic word in the sentence, from the idea that a 2-year-old should not go ham on an airplane, right? Who benefits from that idea is all of the people on the airplane. It's a communal, like I thought it was a really good touchstone for like, is this idea of use to me? Like who benefits from the idea that I should keep my voice down and my kids under control at this fancy restaurant? Like people who've paid a lot of money to dine, like, you could possibly say like the whole concept of fine dining is a sham. Like you don't have to take it 800 steps out. Who benefits from the idea that I should stop talking about Marvel after half an hour? Maybe the people in the room who are bored, but like who profits from the idea that women should be thin? It's an idea that serves.
Yeah, but you still feel, you still have to bear the slings and arrows of it, right? Like the example I'm thinking of is who benefits when they're shooting dirty looks at you when you're breastfeeding in a public space, which is your right to feed your baby, because they don't want to look at that and they think you should cover up and you don't want to cover up, or your baby doesn't like being covered up or whatever. That who benefits? Like their eyeballs? Who cares? I'm going to feed my baby. But I still hated being on the receiving end of that.
This is what I'm saying. It's not a cure, but it's like a little bit of a stopgap when you say like, what is wrong with breastfeeding my baby in public? People who object to it feel that I am, throwing off like puritanical ideas about like women's bodies and what they're for. Therefore, it doesn't make me necessarily not feel bad that someone's shooting me a dagger, but it is a little break in the fire line where I say like, actually, I'm right and they're wrong. And so stare away. It helps you to frame like, is this a useful shaming? I don't think so. And so therefore, it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt my feelings, but it does help me frame that like, oh, this is one of those useless things that like, yes, it will still hurt my feelings if I'm, let's say, having a disagreement about a parking spot and someone's like, you're old and fat. Like, will that hurt my feelings? It will. But it's wrong. They're wrong to say that to me. And it still helps to give it some context, I think.
Well, okay, but this gets me into another thing. I'm like, it depends, right? The thing that we're being judged for, whether it's like looking young or breastfeeding our kid or how our kids are behaving, that's one thing. And then the other complete X factor in this is who's the person. If somebody who wants your parking spot is telling you you're old and fat, it certainly is like rude. But it's not your mother-in-law, right? It's not your loved one. It's not your kid. It's not the like caring what people think. It's not your boss giving you unwelcome feedback. Let's not care what people think. And that can be like the rest of the people on the airplane. But when there are people whose opinions should be easy to ignore, and there are people whose opinions are harder to ignore and maybe should be harder to ignore or can't be ignored. You know what I mean? Like there's somebody at work that just doesn't like me. I'm thinking in particular, like back in the day, like at drop off, there just was a mom who just didn't like me. And like, then she kind of stopped speaking to me. And like, I knew, like I combed my conscience for like, what have I done to this person? Like nothing. She just seems to like drama. I'm just not going to let it bother me. I'm just not going to respond. But of course it still bothered me, because I still see this person every day. It depends.
Well, there's two things. You can't take out the fact that it hurts. And this is the thing. I've done a tremendous amount of work around like body issue stuff for myself and getting rid of a scale and deciding that like I was not going to care what size pants I wore. And like, I have done that work and I have really decided that like, I am no longer like, I spent years of my life being like, the size pants I'm in is the determinant of my
worth.
Personal value.
Right.
And I have stopped doing that for myself. Now, if I am anywhere and someone says like, move it, fatso, will I cry? I will cry 1,000 years into the future when anyone calls me fat, because it's hardwired into me to hurt my feelings. I think that the work of not caring what people think is the work of stopping the crazy dance of trying to fit into a certain size pants.
So nobody will say that. Right.
But it's always going to hurt when someone says something cruel to you. They're trying to be cruel.
Or they're not trying to be cruel.
I've said this to my kids a million times, and someone said it to me, and I think there are people who are trying to be cruel, and I think there are people who are trying to hurt you, and people who are not, and both of them hurt. Like, I've definitely had people make mean comments about my weight to be hurtful to me. And then I've had people say, oh my God, are you pregnant? I'm so excited for you. And I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant and haven't been in 12 years. Like, it doesn't almost matter what they're trying to do. But I think we have to separate the idea that things hurt our feelings from whether or not we care what those people think.
Yes.
I have done the hard work of not caring what people think in the macro, in terms of trying to like divorce myself from thinking a lot about what I weigh. But it always hurts my feelings when people say things that indicate that they think I'm fat. Like, and it always will. I think that they're two separate issues. But what I was going to say before that is that I say this to my kids. Someone said it to me, and I think it's very useful. Of course, that hurt your feelings. That person was trying to hurt your feelings. Like, of course, that hurt your feelings. I was talking to the women who wrote the book, Good Moms, Bad Choices, on a recent Fresh Take. And they are extremely, kind of free in their ideas about motherhood. And they have done a ton of thinking about what it looks like to be a good mom and trying to get rid of some of the sort of older patriarchal, racist ideas about what it means to be a good mom for their own sakes. But they still, in our conversation, were saying, if someone, even on a comment on Instagram, is like, you're a terrible mother, it hurts their feelings. Of course it hurts their feelings, because someone is trying to strike you right in the soft tissue under the ribs, and it works. That's why it works, because it's a vulnerability.
Can we talk about the hurting?
Yes.
And then why the hurting is? Because I have, I have research, and I wanted to bring this in because I thought this was absolutely fascinating. Like we use the metaphor, our feelings being hurt and describing emotional things with physical pain is accurate. So there's a reason, right, that we care what people think. It's obvious because we need society to survive. I'm going to quote Dr. Melissa Sedmak here. She's a psychologist. She says, as a species, we have an innate need to belong in order to survive. Therefore, caring about what other people think and tailoring how we express ourselves and who we are based on the feedback we're getting means that we fit in and we're not an outcast and we don't have to go live.
It's a biological imperative.
We're not on the rocky outcropping.
I need to work on that
by
song.
ourselves. It's hardwired. But then there's this other research. This is the part I thought was really interesting. Naomi Eisenberger, another psychologist, she's researched what she calls the physical social pain overlap. And she suggests, because it's so important that we have social connection for human survival, the social attachment system, which ensures that we have people to connect with if they're not alone. She's suggesting that it's piggybacked onto our pain system, and it uses our physical pain systems to indicate to us when our social relationships are threatened, because it's so important to our survival. She says the human brain has evolved to activate the same neural substrates when we experience physical pain and when we face social rejection.
I think
it totally makes sense.
Of course, 100%. It makes a ton of sense. I mean, everybody can feel that feeling where like you did something socially terrible and like it's an all body pain. It is pain. It's physical pain. I think that in talking about the ideas of like breaking that down and who does it benefit and like really trying to be intellectual about it, it's really about trying to override the biological system, because your physical system, it's very interesting, is wired to say, if I touch fire, I am in pain because my lizard brain is telling me like, no, fire, bad, hot, you know? Similarly, when I get up at a wedding and I do an unsightly dance and I turn around and everybody is looking at me and like, yeah. And I have that same physical pain because your body is like, no unsightly dance at wedding.
Right.
You will be rejected from the tribe. Stop doing that.
All right.
That makes a ton of sense.
So there's something called, more science, there's something called the behavioral inhibition system. It's in our brain.
Okay.
I'm quoting Arthur C. Brooks. He did a article in The Atlantic called No One Cares. And it's basically how to stop caring what people think. And again, another guy. So this happens for all of us, not just women. So he says, when you're thinking about what you're supposed to do in a particular situation, your behavioral inhibition system is activated. So you're on that dance floor at the wedding. And you're like, don't look weird, dance normal. Like, is this still the dance people do? Right? Like, be weird, but not too weird.
Yes.
You're focusing on the cost of acting inappropriately. So the problem is, like you were saying, like, I don't want people to call me fat, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to fit into a certain size pants.
Yes.
He's saying that the problem, and it's all coming together for me now, that the problem is that when we are too concerned about the opinions of others, that our behavioral inhibition system can become overly active and sort of on all the time. And it impairs our ability to take action.
Right.
So he says, like, if you're constantly saying, oh, I shouldn't have said this, I should have done that, or if you don't walk up to that person at the party at all because you're so worried they might think you're weird, that's your behavioral inhibition system in overdrive.
And when we drink too much tequila, we override our behavioral inhibition system completely.
And then we won't care what people
think.
think.
The next day, the behavioral inhibition system is back and being like, please, God, let nobody tag me on Facebook in pictures from last night. That would be horrible.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're right. That's probably why we do that, because it allows us to
override
be uninhibited and not notice what people are laughing at how we're dancing on the dance floor.
Yeah, that. And what's interesting about it is the people who can be truly, like, the behavioral inhibition system obviously isn't developed in kids, right? Which is why people love those like TikTok videos of like the one kid at the concert who's like giving like a full Celine Dion drama performance while all the other kids are just like stomping their feet and like being, you know, the 1984 video of like, I will sing the song. And there's one kid going full out. And I think that's right, that like you want to find there's a flow and a sweet spot between a useful behavior inhibition system and a overdrived behavior inhibition system. Oh, more to talk about when we get back.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
And now, your daytime brain versus your 3 a.m. brain.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
Your daytime brain.
Okay, honey, I'll just be 1 second. I'm just finishing a text to Grandma.
Your 3 a.m. brain.
I ignored his needs. I chose my phone over my child. Well, there goes the entire notion of a happy childhood. What kind of a mother am I? Should I even refer to myself as a mother when what I really am is a neglectful monster?
Your daytime brain.
Oh my gosh, hi Sheila. Long time no see.
Your 3 a.m. brain.
Why did I make that weird face when I saw Sheila? What kind of socially awkward fiend says long time no see? Call the idiot police. I need to be arrested immediately.
Your daytime brain.
This skirt looks cute.
Your 3 a.m. brain.
What was I thinking wearing that skirt?
Pretty much every one of the 300 to 400 people who saw me today texted 8 to 12 different people critiquing my look. I mean, that definitely happened.
Your daytime brain.
Hello, Phil. How's your wife Jenny doing? Oh, I'm sorry, Justine. Yes, your wife's name's Justine.
Your 3 a.m. brain.
No. I can never leave my home again, as there is a chance I will ever run into Phil again. I'm a shut-in now. I mean, it's the only safe choice.
This has been your daytime brain versus your 3 a.m. brain.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
I mean, my biggest solution to this whole issue is a long time ago at my first job, I was like a busy bee. I was a paralegal and I was like a busy worker bee, like right out of college. Look how great I am. And I brought something to a lawyer and he was like, this is excellent work. And I was like, thanks. And I came down and I was bragging to my like very trollish, had been there forever office mate. And I was like, they said I did excellent work. And he just turned to me and he said, if you care when they compliment you, you gotta care when they insult you. And it's like, I do think that the only way to win is not to play, in terms of the more you live and die on what other people think, the more you care. It's a self-feeding system.
Oh, that's interesting.
And also, more importantly, because this is the part you have more control over, the more you do this to other people, the worse it is for yourself.
Oh, yes.
The more you look at Amy and you're like, God, what a blouse. What was she thinking? That looks dumb. And the more you talk about it to other people, it feeds a part of your brain that lets you believe. I used to be, in comedy and hanging out with comics. That's all everybody does all day is be like,
look at her. Yeah.
Amy walks out of the room and it's like, what an idiot. Did you hear her say that? But it's just feasting on each other for laughs, which is funny and fun. And it's kind of what makes comics' brains work, like being very observational. But I did find that my anxiety was extremely high and I was so tuned into everything I did so that I would never be like the person being feasted on. And letting go of that slowly over many years has been extremely good for my mental health. Like, I don't care what you do, and therefore I don't have to care what you think I do.
So my solution, I agree with that. And I actually had it in here because I saw it somewhere in my research for this episode. I'm like, oh, this is what Margaret says, that if you become less judgmental, you will then fear other judgments less in turn. I'm like, I've heard Margaret say that, so I'm going to put that in here. I'm coming at it from a slightly different point of view because having done this research, I now understand, like, you don't stop it at the source. You don't stop it at the, like, I will stop caring what people think. You're not a bad person for caring what people think, for letting people hurt your feelings. You're just human. I'm not sure you can stop that. You can stop how you react. You can stop your living your life by your behavioral inhibition system, maybe, right? You can't stop yourself from doing what you're supposed to do, which is to attend to what other people think of you. And more importantly, I think this is one of these things that people say as if it's a solution, like, just don't care what people think. And then you live happily ever after, right? Just don't care what you weigh. And then you'll bathe in body positivity for the rest of your days. Well, it's not really that simple, right? Like saying, I don't care what people think. That you don't do that as a stealth way to becoming somebody who everybody likes all the time.
No, that's right. Yeah, it's not a means to an end. It's life's work. And it will always hurt when people try to be mean because that's what they're trying to do. Being really mean works. It stinks, but it's true. I think being really mean, I just saw the Northwestern graduation speaker was talking about, like, and I don't know if this is even true, but I was like, it's interesting. He's like, the dumbest person in the room is the meanest person in the room. And the smartest person in the room is the kindest person in the room. Like, that being mean is, like, you would call it a low power strategy of dominance. It's like an easy way. Like, I can take you down if I want to by being like, I know what Amy feels the most insecure about. And I'm going to say that she is that thing out loud. Like, that will always hurt your feelings for the rest of time but that's a mean person being mean. It's low power, but it works in the same way that a toddler having a tantrum works because it is effective, but it's not, this is deeper work than that is what I would say. It's deeper work in saying, like, I am going to work on myself, but it will never shield you against people being lazily cruel.
Right.
There's
or just rolling their eyes. Like, again, like, I'm thinking about the, like, you should put a hat on that baby. I mean, you can feel, like, judged by that. You can feel maybe wounded by that. You can feel annoyed by that. That isn't somebody, like, who woke up this morning out to ruin your life. But the problem is, again, I'm going to quote Sarah Coyne. She's a parenting columnist, and we talked about it in the other episode we did about parenting with an audience. She says kids need consistent, reliable, trustworthy parents who don't change their game plan based upon who's watching.
Oh,
right? It's good advice.
And we need to be reliable selves to ourselves who don't change our game plan based on who's watching.
It's the game plan, right? It's not like stop caring. It's like stop changing your game plan based on what people think. I feel like that might be where I'm headed towards.
Yeah, and I think the longer you live, like, I've definitely seen a million examples of like the golden girl who everybody wanted to be and everybody was jealous of turn out to be a miserable person with really profound problems enough times in my life.
What's that Charlize Theron movie where that happens to her? Such a good movie.
Oh, I love that movie. Except for the one bad thing about that movie is like 10 people saw this movie and was like, I saw a movie and it was totally reminded me of you because she's constantly swilling Diet Coke and she has like really badly blown out hair. It's called Young Adult, Amy. And yes, that movie has a lot of that. And I just think the longer you live, I have a friend who was dating a guy and everybody was like, he is, George Clooney reborn. Like, this is the most important. This is the best guy you could ever date. Broke up with him, married somebody else. And I think there are still people to this day who are like, what a loser. She lost that great guy. And like everybody who was close to the situation knows what really happened there. And what really happened there was that there was real problems with the great guy and that the other guy was great. And so all the people who are sitting around still feasting on like, she lost that great guy and went with that. Like, okay, we all know what really happened. So like, I guess you have to just let the people feast, and it can be really hard. And I'll tell you, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was my best friend said to me, one of your problems is that you think it's your job to convince people that they're jerks. She did not use the word jerks. And it's like, what if I stop making that my job? What if I just let jerks go through the world thinking they're great? Like, what if I could do that? It's pretty freeing.
What if I just went through the world, knowing that it wasn't my job to make people realize that they're wrong if they, don't like me, that I need to correct their misapprehensions.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge, because I know we have a lot of people who listen who live on military bases, small towns. This is harder for people who live in closed social circles.
Yes.
Like closed social circles double up their social pressure to keep people in line. And so this is much easier. First of all, it's easier when you're older. Second of all, it's still true that the only power you have is to stop caring what people think. You can't change people's minds. And knowing your own truth. It's still all true, but I do want to say that my husband's from a small town and I know people from real small towns and small communities. And let me tell you, in a real small town, you can be 50 and people are still like, oh, remember that stupid girl and what she did in the 8th grade? Like, it is a really different world than I think we live in really big towns where you can kind of reinvent yourself and find new friends. And then the people who you left behind seem kind of like, when you live in these kind of high pressure social worlds, Amy's research, doubly important. There's double reasons why people are trying to exert social control through social power. And then the pressure on you is double or tripled because it feels very absolute when everybody on the base is like, this is the queen bee and this is where you fall in the hierarchy. And like, it's harder to escape, but I still think the same rules generally apply, which is you deserve to live like no one else is watching. And so that's the only power you have, is to find it.
Yeah. We do need to say, right, that you and I exist in a society where we're white, we're heterosexual, we're married to men, we have kids who are able-bodied, and we get to live our lives in the main of what people think is like an acceptable way to be, right? And so...
Right. We exist in the fat part of the bell curve.
Thank you. We exist in the fat part of the bell curve. So I hope that any of this discussion and advice is useful to people who are like, yeah, like my wife and I, 2 women, are raising our kids like near a cattle ranch. And right.
Yeah.
It's hard not to care what people think. I get it. Like, your mileage may vary, but...
So we solved it, but only a little bit. But I think that the overall solutions remain correct. And so hopefully it was helpful.
Yes.
Let's
it
not
helped
care
me.
what people think, Games. Let's not
let what people think change what we do next, unless it's supposed to change what we do next. Can you right now take a moment where you're listening to this podcast, doesn't matter what app you're in, and if you haven't done it already, follow, subscribe. There's usually a little like plus sign you can tap on, and then you just get every episode in your feed. Maybe you could rate and review. Throw us some stars. If you use Good Pods, it actually lets you leave a comment in the episode, which I like and I've been using a lot. You can follow What Fresh Hell on Good Pods and see like what we're listening to, and that's a good way to do it. Anyway, if you just leave us a rating, a review, you follow the show, it's a great way to help us keep growing.
Thanks, friends, for doing that. That will help us feel better about ourselves, which is important, and we love it. And with that, we will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.
So long.